Hey everyone, I thought I'd quickly come on and do a video because I haven't done one in ages, and I said I was going to do one more frequently, but life gets in the way. And anybody out there that is juggling mum life or dad life with a job and trying to keep themselves sane will know there's just not enough hours in the day sometimes. Um, and I really did also take a step back from posting so much and um, doing all the things that I was doing on social media. I've never described myself once as an influencer. I'm definitely not an influencer. I'm just somebody that likes to overshare, and that's frankly all it is. For me, it's also a big coping mechanism for like anything that's going on in my life, anything that I feel that I can't control at the moment. I like to talk about. I spent too many years bottling up things and not talking about them that just led to really bad mental health. So for me, I like writing. So I write a lot on my phone. I will write stories or poems or like diary entries. Or I come on and I waffle to people. And for those that have known me for a while, you know that I used to do network marketing. So that involved me going live an awful lot. And I miss that. I do miss that a lot. I miss Facebook Lives. I would go live quite a lot and just talk rubbish. So this is what my YouTube is. Not that I'm speaking rubbish, but a friend really reminded me this week because she was struggling that we don't speak enough about things going on in our lives. And social media paints this wonderful, pretty picture where anybody looking in thinks that you have the perfect life, which is not the case. There are probably people out there that do lead perfect lives, but 99% I think of the population probably don't lead a perfect life. And I definitely don't. And I have had a few comments, some from really close friends, so don't feel bad if you're one of the people that made this comment to me. But I have had people comment saying, like, that I do so much that sometimes people don't feel they're doing enough, or like they don't understand how I can get it all done in a day because I cook sometimes and do crafts and take Theo out. Um, I'm extremely lucky that I work a job where my boss and I have a great working relationship. And when I went on maternity, we agreed that I could work part time hours, which I do. And also, depending on the needs of the business, there's some days that I have to work certain times, but majority of the time I can sort of fit it around my life and fit it around Theo, which I'm extremely grateful for because it has meant that I've not had to rush back to the office. I could spend longer with Theo. Like Theo's nearly 2 and he's only just starting childcare. So it gave me that flexibility to work from home with him. And I have got a really good child. I don't know if I'm sometimes a bit like rose tint glasses when it comes to him, but I do generally have a great child which has learned how to play by himself, so he will keep himself entertained. He's going through a really clingy stage at the moment where he wants to sit with me or sit on me, which is not ideal, especially when I'm trying to work. I think it's because obviously he started childcare. He sort of feels like maybe we're going to abandon him, so he's now more clingy to me. But I've heard from other mums that it's also a normal sort of time in their life where they go through this stage. So whether it is because of the childcare or if he's just going through a clingy stage, either way, he is very clingy at the moment. But before he was clingy, I could like get him an activity or put out some toys, and he would happily do that and play with it for a few hours so I could work. So I generally do probably about 16 to 40 to 50 hours a week work, but I do work evenings as well sometimes, and I do work weekends. So me posting on social media and stuff like that, I sort of just do it as and when. And mainly because I like sharing things. I like letting people know when there's stuff going on. Mainly because I like knowing when there's stuff going on. So I will use my stories to go back through and see what's on that month. But as I said, like social media makes a really pretty picture. So people obviously only post pictures they want to post. Like you don't see me posting pictures of me in the shower crying because I don't want to share that with the world all the time, but I'm going to come on and tell you about my times when I'm not so happy. But of course, people post stuff that is positive. Like, I don't want to burden people with negativity. Social media for me is a positive space. I like to share. I like to help people, and I like to share my experiences so people know that they're not alone. Because I think too often as mums, we take everything that's going on around us and we think that it's only us, when chances are there's other people that are going through it. And I think sometimes, like, the doctors are great, but I think sometimes they're too quick to say that, like, you've got postnatal depression, or this is going on, or that's going on. And sometimes I think if we just spoke to more people, we would realize that we're not, like, we get in our own head and we think that we're not good enough, when actually all the other mums are having the same thoughts and feelings as us. So yeah, as I said, my friend was a bit down this week, and the stuff that she was describing to me, I'd been through. And I was like, why don't we talk about this enough, so then people don't think they're alone, and then people know that it's normal to have these feelings. Because as much as people can prepare you for motherhood, um, like, they can tell you how hard it is, and how hard the newborn stage is, and how hard this stage is, and you're never gonna, like, remember this when they get to this stage and this stage. As much as people can tell you about that, until you're in the thick of it, like, you really don't get it. And until you've had kids or been in that position, you're not going to understand. And every kid is different and every experience is different. But generally, the thoughts and the hormones involved when you're a mother, they're all similar. They are similar. There's extreme cases where, of course, there are people with postnatal depression and other things wrong. But the majority of the time, when we're sad as mums, other mums have been there, and it is normal, and it is not depression. There are some elements of depression, but like, there's a lot to get to that point. So for me, my experience I'm going to share with you now is something that I didn't realise is what happens when you stop breastfeeding. So breastfeeding is a really big topic with me, because I did do a video before, as you can see on my YouTube channel, along the lines of breastfeeding and feeding and the things that work for me. And I did combination feed, so I didn't just exclusively breastfeed. At the start, I did like 1 bottle a night, I think, till he was probably like 6-7 months. Then I think we increased it to like a couple of bottles a night. But generally speaking, the majority of my journey has been breastfeeding. Now, I was one of these mums that was like, do you know what, I'll just stop when he's 1. The thing is, when Theo turned 1, I then didn't stop. And then he knew what was going on. And I really enjoyed my breastfeeding journey, and I'm really grateful I did it. But I'd got to the point long before that he was 1 that I wanted to stop. It was just no longer working for me. And kudos to the mum that does it till like 6 or 5 or whatever. For me, in my journey, I had reached a point that I'd had enough at 1. I felt touched out. It was all overwhelming. I just wanted my own space. Like, I could feel myself getting upset and angry with Theo, which is not good for anyone. So I did go to the doctors for a different matter. And then when I was at the doctors, I did bring up the fact that I wanted to stop. And I asked her, how do I stop? Like, it's too much for me now. I really want to stop. How do we stop this? And she went to me, you can't. Like, I don't know if that was the most unhelpful answer ever or just a really bad doctor, but she said, you can't. And I said, what do you mean you can't? You obviously can stop, because people do stop. And she said, well, like, you just have to wait till they're ready to stop. And I was like, well, what about if he's not going to be ready till 5? Like, I don't want to go on another 4 years. And she said, a situation with her sister, that her sister had given up breastfeeding, and the only way they could get the sister's kids off was for her to look after the kids for the week. Now, I don't have the luxury that I can send Theo to somebody's for a week. It's just simply, we don't have that network of people where Theo will go somewhere for a week. So that was an option. So I joked with her and said, well, are you going to take him then for a week? But I just thought it was a really unhelpful answer. She didn't give me anything that I could use or take home. And I feel like if I wasn't the person I am, and if I didn't have the strength I had, and if I was going for postnatal depression or whatever, any mental health, that would have probably tipped me over the edge. Um, but luckily, it didn't. I did then Google for help to how to stop, and people were like drop feeds and reduce feeds and do this and do that. Now, the thing is, with my breastfeeding journey, there's a lot of mums out there that are probably great at recording what they're doing, like what boob they use for how long or what times, and how many feeds a day. I've always fed on demand. So if the baby was hungry and showing signs of food, I give him boob. Um, it's just as simple as that. Like, I just fed on demand. So I didn't have it written down how many feeds he could have. And because I did it on demand, I couldn't just drop a feed or reduce a feed. And I was already offering the bottle as well, which Theo was taking. So I just felt really at wit's end with this all, and everyone I spoke to, nobody really had an answer of how to stop. Some people suggested plasters, which I tried, and that hurt. Please make sure you're using proper plasters and not just tape plaster. Really hurts. But yeah, people suggested plasters. People suggested to put, that stuff that you put on your nails to stop biting it. Garlic, I think somebody said, onions. There was loads of wild suggestions out there. But I just felt really sort of like I'd had enough, and I couldn't work out how to change it. And then, and then I just went, enough's enough. And I just feel that still in this day and age, there's loads of pressure to breastfeed. Now, I'm not saying breastfeeding's right or wrong, and I'm not saying that everyone should do it or whatever, but there is a lot of pressure to do it. Even like if you speak to some mums, the experiences they've had with doctors, even myself, I had an experience where I was in the doctor's surgery and one of the doctors said, "Are you breastfeeding?" When I said yes, they were like, "Well done, like you should be, blah blah." But the lady that had seen them before, she was really horrible to because she wasn't. And I'd met that lady in the reception, so she'd messaged me after my appointment to see how the woman was with me. So there is loads of pressure to breastfeed till a certain point. It then gets to a point where people then switch it and go from, "Yeah, well done you," to doing breastfeeding to, "Oh, you're really still breastfeeding at this age?" Or, "Oh, you want to stop?" Like, there is so much stigma around it, and I just don't understand. Like, what I do for my baby and what another mum does for their baby is their choice, their decision. If it's not harming the baby, then what does it matter? And I feel like it just went from well done to, "Oh, you're still doing that. Like, why are you still breastfeeding him? He's nearly at this age. He's got teeth. He's got that." Which I don't really care about what people think. But then there is no help afterwards. Like, there's a lot of help to get started to breastfeeding. Once they get you started, fine. But then there's no help throughout your breastfeeding journey, through the struggles through that. So it's like help really at the beginning, nothing in the middle. And then when you want to stop, nothing at all. There is nothing. There's just some random advice online, and there really isn't that much help for mums. And they don't warn you about anything that comes with stopping breastfeeding. And now I'm going to get really passionate because I thought there was something wrong with me. I went to the doctors because I was sad. I had a breakdown, which I'll come to in a minute. I had a breakdown. I was having panic attacks. I was having really bad cramps. I was on my period for like 3 weeks, and I'm on the pill that stops my period. So I'm like, why am I on my period for 3 weeks? It was to the point that I went to the doctors. Now, I'm not one of these people that go to the doctors for anything. I'm actually really can't be bothered to go to the doctors. So unless I'm really sick, I will refuse to go. But it got to the point that even I went to the doctors, and they said, "Well, you have to do samples for everything, swabs and sample pots of everything." So I went off and I did all that, and it wasn't until I messaged one of my friends that was pregnant, and I was sort of joking with her, like, "Oh, how's pregnant life?" And then she was like, and then I was like, "Oh, it can't be as bad as me. I've been on my period for 3 weeks and all this is happening to me." And she was like, "Well, that will happen when you stop the boob." I was like, "What?" And it was like sort of an eureka moment, like, "Oh yeah, this has happened because I've stopped breastfeeding." But why didn't the doctors pick up on that? Because my child looks big, like, the doctors don't ask if I'm breastfeeding or if I've stopped breastfeeding. But that was one of the main reasons that I was going through this. And it really messes with your your hormones, the way you feel, loads of stuff like that. Obviously it's different for everyone, but it's the same as like when you give birth, it's different for everyone. But there's so many hormones around everything. Like when your baby's breastfeeding, it releases endorphins, it releases hormones that like make you happier. So when you stop that, it's gonna crash. So for me, I went into like I went into like weeks of like being upset, feeling not like I wasn't good enough. And everyone kept telling me before all of this that I had postnatal depression, which I'm still on the fence whether I do or don't have it. I don't believe I do, but everyone kept telling me, you've changed, this has happened. But like, of course you change. Like, there is no way I was going to be the person that I was before birth, because having a baby changes you. You have to change your whole way of life. Like pre-baby, I was up every night, like with Rich till like 2 in the morning on the weekend, doing tequila shots all night and smoking and stuff. After baby, I don't do that. I'll be lucky if I manage 3 drinks before I feel like I want to go to bed. But yeah, having a baby changes you. But this really changed me, and yeah, it was dark, and I was having panic attacks, and the cramps so bad, like honestly, like they just don't prepare you for what it's gonna feel like when you're stopping. And the point of this video is not to scare anyone that wants to come off breastfeeding, or even to like make anyone feel bad or anything like that. I just want to share my experience. So if anybody is out there going through the same stuff that I am going through, that you know you're not alone. Now, the only way I managed to get Theo off my boob in the end was literally to just go cold turkey. So I literally just cut it off. I said that I was only going to do one feed in the evening just before he goes to bed. That was the one feed he's going to get, and other than that, no. And he did really well with it. Like, he did really well, but he did get really sad. So there was sometimes he would crawl up me, try and take my top off and cry, and you could see in his eyes he was like desperately trying to tell me that he wants to be fed. And it was really heartbreaking to see, especially when you're going through all of those emotions yourself, like from the weaning off the breastfeeding and not having the endorphins anymore. When you're going through all those emotions, um I can only describe it as like really, really bad periods, really bad PMS. Like, I just hated everyone, but in the same breath, like, just wanted to cry all the time. It was really weird, but it's then hard to see your kid breaking down on the floor because all he wants is something that you could give him in an instant, but you're trying so hard to stop, and you can't go back on that because then it confuses them. But yeah, so I did that for, I think it was 2 weeks with just nighttime, and then I went, well, it's been, I think actually it was 9 days or 10 days, and I went, well, it's been this long, and he's getting better during the day, so now I'm just gonna stop it all. And I just went cold turkey from the nights as well, and again, it led to a lot of tears and a lot of upset, but there was some positives. Like, it was the first time that I'd ever got a cuddle from him. It sounds really weird, but when you're a mum and you're breastfeeding, we don't get normal cuddles like daddy does. Or, well, at least I didn't. Don't know about anyone else's experience, but don't get normal cuddles like daddy does. So when Richard used to cuddle him, he'd like full on cuddle him, and he would go to Richard purely for a cuddle. Whereas when he comes to me, he'd be going sideways when you're cuddling him and trying to get further down because he can smell you. So I did get my first proper cuddle within like the first couple of days of not doing it in the night as well, which was so lovely. And he actually started sleeping better as well. He started sleeping all the way through, because before he would get up at least 2-3 times a night. Now he like pretty much sleeps all the way through, unless he's upset or if something's going on. But yeah, it was tough. And so the whole point, as I said, of this video is just to share how it felt for me, and just to say you're not alone. Like, hormones are a crazy thing, and like, nothing in the world can prepare you for it. So when he was first born, I was so emotional, and then throughout the whole of my motherhood journey, like he's nearly 2, I'm still an emotional wreck. Because it does change you, and it does change everything about you. Um, and everything, as they do say, everything is a phase. So what I thought I couldn't handle originally, I now would like give my right arm to handle. Like that newborn stage where you think it's never going to end and everything's so overwhelming, to then, I don't know, getting them off your boob, or my next adventure is getting him to sit on a potty. Like it's all just one phase that we get through, and then we sort of think, Jesus, how did we get through that? But yeah, the whole point of this video is to tell you that you're not alone, that we're all in the same boat. We should talk more about it, and if anyone else is struggling, to let me know, and maybe we could have a chat. Or like, I just don't want anyone to feel like they're on their own. Like, we're all in this together. As they say, it takes a whole village to raise a child, and it is true. But yeah, for me, it was really traumatic this last, I would say, probably this last 2 months has been really difficult. Because most people that know me knows that I'm normally upbeat and positive. I did have a few things going on in my personal life, and I did unfortunately lose a loved one. So when I went to Wolverhampton I think it was like a couple of weeks back now, um, I drove there in one day, so it's like a 3 hour drive, and then I drove back, which I really shouldn't have. In hindsight, I probably should have stayed. But with my journey of like getting him off and everything like that, and I just wanted routine for him, so I didn't want to stay in a different place. I wanted to keep his routine of, this is what we do, now we're off the boob, this is where we sleep, these are the times we sleep. I didn't want to change even more for him, especially with starting childcare as well. So I did drive back on the same day, and I felt wrong on the motorway. So I was fine until it went dark. And it went dark, and then I just got in my head. So then I thought I was gonna pass out or be sick in the car. So I managed to stop at Northampton. So I stopped at the Hilton in Northampton, and the lovely, lovely receptionist there checked in my car, so I didn't have to pay while I was sat there. And she got me a drink, and I ordered a bit of food because I thought maybe I might be hungry. And then I thought, am I okay to drive? So I thought, yeah, I'm all good to drive now. So after about an hour, I then got back on the road. And then I had a full-on panic attack on the road. Like, all the emotions I've been feeling just went over my head, and it sort of felt like I was being drowned. My chest went tight. I couldn't breathe. My vision was going blurry. I was like, I can't see him. Theo's in the back of the car. So then I started freaking out more because I was in my head. So I ended up stopping on the hard shoulder, which I've never done before in my life, called Richard up, crying down the phone, and was like, Rich, what do? I don't know what to do. I've never done this. Like, what's going to happen? What should I do? Should I leave the baby in the car? Or should I take the baby out the car with me? Rich was like, do not leave the baby in the car, which sounds so obvious now, but in the midst of things, like, I couldn't think straight. I couldn't even see straight. I was just shaking. And then in the back of my head also, I was like, I'm going to have to come off this hard shoulder at a point, and I'm not the most confident driver. So I'm like, how am I going to move on into this traffic when all I can see is these fast cars and bright lights going past me? And like, it was all just too much. So I grabbed Theo out the car, and it was really cold, and he wasn't wearing much because I put him in his pajamas ready to go to bed when we got in. And I just remember the look of pure panic in his face. And I walked to the little phone, and the phone was broken, it wasn't working. So then I had to get back in my car. And Rich doesn't drive, for those that don't know. So I was like, well, he can't even come and get me. Like, what do I do? I haven't got a clue now what to do. Like, I know, like, no one off the top of my head that can drive and come get me. So I'm going to have to just drive. So I drove to a services, and then had another panic attack there and a freak out there. I had to leave Rich on loudspeaker so he could calm me through while I got to the services. But it was all just too much. In the end, I obviously did get home because I'm here today. But I had to put him on loudspeaker while I drove the whole way home because I couldn't do it. I didn't feel like I could cope. And then since then, all that's been happening is panic attack after panic attack. So I'm all right during the day, but like, I don't know, like I've gone out twice, and each time I've gone out I've had a panic attack. Now one of the times I ended up fine, the other time I just couldn't shake it until I got closer to home. I think it's just playing on my mind, but it just comes to the point where everything just gets too much if we don't talk about things. And the panic attack linked with all my emotions from giving up breastfeeding, linked with all the emotions that Theo is growing. So as much as I really did want to give up breastfeeding, because I really did, like, don't get me wrong, I did not want to continue that journey. It's still sad because it's just still a milestone that's gone. And as I said before, when we're in that stage, you think everything is hard. Like the newborn stage, I think it was so hard, and now I wish I'd gone back to that. And as everyone says, it goes by in a blink, and you just think, well, where has that time gone? Um, but I just don't know. I just don't know what's going on. But I'm trying to take everything a bit slower now, which is why I do the things that I do on my page. Why I like sharing things is because I don't want people to feel the same way, but it also helps me in coping and giving me something to do. There's a bit more meaningful than just going about my life. Like, it's nice to know that I'm also helping other mums, helping other families with things that are going on, even if it's just something stupid like giving them, I don't know, I gave somebody details for a hall they could rent the other day, or mum messaged me asking for if I knew anyone that did Sonic the Hedgehog dress ups and things. Just little things like that I like doing because I know that I'm helping people, and it also gets my mind off some of the things that I do as well. So I have chewed your ears off for nearly half an hour, but I hope this has helped someone. And even if it hasn't helped you, I hope it shows you that I am a real person, that I do have problems, and I'm not a perfect social media person, which I wish in the world I was. Um, but I just like to share things on social media, and I have to keep myself busy. I like doing arts and crafts. I like cooking. For me, doing things like that, it then just helps me not face the real world and my problems. But yeah, it was lovely speaking to you all again, and hopefully I can do some more videos, like I keep promising. And if there's anything that you want to see, or if anything you want to speak about, or if you just need to rant and rave to someone, then my inbox is always open. Have a lovely day, whatever you're doing, and I will speak to you all soon. Bye.